Hey everybody, I hope you're all doing well, and I'm glad you're joining me for this video because I am super excited because it's about one of my favorite video games, Final Fantasy XIV, and the tarot cards that the class Astrologian has in that game. So, I'm a tarot fanatic, but also a video game fanatic. So I love when these two worlds kind of collide. In case you're not playing Final Fantasy XIV, just a quick explanation. It's an online multiplayer game where you engage with others. It's kind of a community and everybody kind of, experiences the story and the world in their own way. And there is one class in that game, as the players among you will know, that has tarot cards. It uses tarot cards for different spells to empower its allies, to heal its allies, and it's just amazing because someone actually printed these cards and made these cards real. I'll show close-ups of all the cards. As always, there's an index in the description box. So if you want to jump to a specific card and my rambling about it, then you can just check the description box and that'll have all the information. Now, the tarot fans among you will know that tarot usually has 78 cards, while the Astrologian cards are limited to 8 as of now, unfortunately. But that's okay. I can live with 8 cards, I definitely can. And so I won't be using these as an actual tarot deck, but I'll tell you how I use them later in the video. And because I'm spoiling you, I will start with my very favorite card, Balance. Balance in the game gives you 10% more damage, or an ally of yours that you put the magic of the card on. And as you can see, this card is in the classical, beautiful Final Fantasy art style that many of us love so much. No matter which game you play, the animations are going to look a lot different throughout the Final Fantasy series, but these kind of thin-lined, beautiful figures with muted colors and very strong symbolism and a very strong energy is what all the Final Fantasy games have in common in their promotional art. So the Balance card, which as I said is all about damage and about fire energy, has 2 gods from the Final Fantasy lore assigned to it. I have to look this up. Azema and Nald-Thal. Those are the 2 gods that are aligned with this card. Azema is the warden and Nald-Thal are the traitors, and this is kind of reflected in the whole balance idea of the card. She is holding 2 scales, and she also has a fan made of feathers. She has this beautiful sun behind her, which embodies that rash and energetic sun vibe and fire vibe. And she also has very beautiful flowers on her head and something that looks like she has horns, which kind of reminded me of the god Pan. And she also has dark angel wings. Like, there's nothing wrong with this figure. She is just too beautiful. I could obsess over her forever. And I think she represents the concept of creating balance in your life through cutting away what you don't need and strengthening the parts that you do need. And that way you're more effective in your life and deal more damage, so to speak. Or, well, you don't always want to deal damage, but you get what I mean, you get it. Next, we have the Bole. This is also an amazing card. In the game, it gives you 10% more defense. So it decreases all the damage you take by 10%, so it's a more defensive card than the Balance. This card also has 2 goddess symbols, or god symbols, in the top left and the top right corner. You can see that in the close-up. These are Althik, the keeper, and Nofika, the matron. So both of them have a very, they almost have a parental energy to them, a parental protective energy. The matron, the keeper, it's about protection, about nurturing. What I love about this card is that when you look closely, and I did not see this in the game when I played Astrologian, the tree is actually made up of two huge snakes, snake-like dragons, I would almost say. And the tree trunk is made up of the bodies of these snaking creatures. You also have a lot of 6-rayed stars in all of these cards. Oh yeah, I haven't shown you the backs yet. That's what the backs look like. Pretty, pretty. So I kind of enjoy this because, you know, snakes are kind of the symbol for knowledge and wisdom and pathways to finding knowledge. And dragons are a symbol of strength and also wisdom. And together they make up this defensive tree that is almost a bulwark that protects you, you know. I love the imagery. So these were kind of the damage dealing and damage reduction cards. They are all about damage. Next we have the arrow. In the game, this card gives you 10% more attack speed, and the two gods that are assigned to the card are Limlane, the navigator, and Oskon or Oshon, I don't know how to pronounce it, the wanderer. And I love this card especially because I feel like up here that could be a pomegranate tree, and pomegranates have a very strong and important symbolism for me. And it has a mountain in the background, which always reminds me of success and climbing mountains, you know, reaching your goals. And obviously, because it's the arrow, it has a very pinpointed, focused energy. So it's all about effectiveness, about acting quickly but surely and finding the most efficient way, basically, to reach your goal. And I feel like this 6-pointed star that's here again in front of the arrow kind of signifies a almost divine aid for the arrow to find its target most efficiently. So the gods kind of play a very big part in this card, I think. Next we have the spear. This gives you 10% crit rate in the game. What I love here is that you have one goddess symbol in the top left corner and one in the inside of the figure's shield. We have kind of a very motherly figure here with voluptuous hips and just in general many curves, which goes well with the energy of the card because she has Menfina, the lover, and Helone, the fury. So this is an awesome combination of ice energy. The bowl was earth energy, by the way, and the arrow was wind energy, and here we have ice energy. If you know the story behind Heaven's Ward, which is the first expansion for Final Fantasy XIV, you will know that these towers in the background are probably Ishgard. They are protected by Helone, the goddess of fury and the goddess of war and power, whereas Menfina, the lover, is kind of a polar energy to that. And I like that the spear embodies both of it. She is this kind of motherly figure, but at the same time, a warrior goddess almost. And Helone's symbol is in her shield because Helone is traditionally associated with holding a bronze shield. So that's really awesome. We have again the 6-pointed star shining down on Ishgard, protecting it. Those feathers on her helmet or her headgear almost remind me of Hermes a little bit. What I love about her is also just the symbolism of the spear and the way that it means crit rate, you know, because a spear is a very pointed weapon. If you're going to use a spear, you have to have absolute control over this pole arm. Otherwise, you're not going to do any damage. With a sword, at least you can be effective by just slashing around, sort of. depending on the ability of your enemy. But with a spear, you have to have a very pointed idea of where you want to attack. So it's a symbol for me for figuring out what the most effective ways to tackle a certain subject are. And you will note that I explain these cards in a way that kind of relates to everyday life as well. That's because I'm trying to use them in my general tarot practice. So when I lay down the tarot cards and have a certain question, sometimes I'll use these cards kind of as little pointers. So, for example, this card would be the question of where I can be most effective, where I can make a critical impact in my life, or the Bole would be where can I regenerate energy, where can I basically heighten my defenses. And in that way, the symbolism of the cards is great for making spreads. So I will maybe just pull out 4 cards of these. It's 8 cards total, and lay them out face down, and then lay different cards from a normal tarot deck on them, and then see how the energies between these cards and the normal tarot cards relate and what it tells me. And it's awesome. It's awesome. So I'm not even that sad that there aren't 78 cards, obviously. It's also a great way to kind of boost your tarot spreads with just these 8 cards. Now that was kind of the ability side of things. You had attack speed and critical hit. And now we are moving to the restorative side of things. We have the Ewer, which gives you mana regeneration in the game. And this card is also governed by 2 gods, by Nemea, the spinner, and Thaliak, the scholar. If you know anything about tarot, this reminds me of the Temperance card. It's a man with a big vessel, and there's a lot of water energy in this card. Water energy is all about magic, intuition, the deeper parts of our psyche and emotions. And that's why it goes with mana so well, because mana is what you use to cast spells. It's kind of your magical energy that you have at your disposal. And the fact that water is related to regenerating that is very, very fitting. Now you will note in this card, we don't have a 6-pointed star, but instead a brain, which kind of makes it not only emotional, but also about mind power. So you have this merger of the power of the mind and the power of intuition. And I think this is a very beautiful card as well. I can't even pick a favorite anymore. I know I said balance was my favorite, but I don't know now. So the last card of the normal cards is the Spire. As you can see, it has lightning, it has a tower, it has an old man. This could be, now that I think about it, this could be Thornton, the god of lightning, or one of the primals that's related to lightning. Now, this card also has a very special significance that's really exciting, because the 2 gods that make it up are Byrgot, the builder, and Rhalgr, the destroyer. If you're familiar with the Stormblood storyline, then you will know that Rhalgr has a great significance to Alamigo. And I think it's amazing that the builder and the destroyer are one in one card. And this always had kind of a tower vibe for me, obviously. The tarot card, the tower, is all about a tower getting destroyed and kind of an energy of disruption. And in this case, you also have the lightning, but it doesn't seem to quite destroy the tower. It's also coming from a 6-pointed star again, by the way. But rather, it is kind of imbuing the Spire with its energy. It's a destructive force that is taken and transformed into something regenerative, because in the game, this card gives you TP back, and TP is kind of like stamina. I think tactical points is what it stands for. So your stamina is regenerated, you can use more skills again, you can use physical skills rather than mana-related magical skills. So it's an amazing dynamic like destruction and rebuilding and the invigorating energy of destruction and of cleansing, basically. Now we get to the Lady and the Lord of the Crowns. These are unfortunately not the real artworks from the game, which made me a little sad, but I don't know if they couldn't get a hold of them or not. I know this is a revised version. Before they sold this with an artwork that was a little bit worse, I'll say. And this is the better artwork, fortunately. They differ a little bit from the cards in the game, but in general, the Lady of the Crowns has healing power, and the Lord of the Crowns has the power to deal damage, basically. And that is why I kind of read it as the nurturing power of the mother versus the more structuring and disciplined power of the father. In that way, I use them in tarot too. If I, for example, put this card into a spread, then it would have an energy of healing or nurturing or happiness, glee, whereas the Lord card would be a more structuring, more active, more aggressive energy for my spread. So listen, I will be making a video series about the class of Astrologian and Final Fantasy XIV. I'm really excited about this. It will be about the correspondences between the skill set, the fashion, the cards, the story of Astrologian, and concepts from tarot, from philosophy, psychology, astrology, because there's actually a lot of inspiration that the developers took from all of these wisdom teachings and from all of these concepts that are related to spirituality, and they just put it all into Astrologian, and I absolutely love it. This also applies for Dark Knight, by the way. Maybe at some point I'll make something about the Dark Knight class from Final Fantasy XIV. So look forward to those videos. Even if you're not a Final Fantasy XIV fan, maybe it's interesting to see for you how video games nowadays take spirituality and mold it into something new and something that embodies so many ideas and archetypes that you're familiar with if you love the tarot. And I hope there's also some Final Fantasy XIV players obviously interested in this. That would be amazing, because I think there's so much depth that I'm familiar with the Final Fantasy XIV lore, but I'm not a buff, you know? I don't know everything, so hearing your thoughts about it is always awesome. Have fun playing Final Fantasy XIV or laying your tarot cards. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Have a great time.